just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologise to absolutely nobody. The double check
It's going to take me out. Somebody just turned the go switch on these suckers and people are moving a lot faster. Something's going on, and I ain't ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 27, Jumpin Offsides, presented by Louisiana Downs Casino and Racetrack, where excitement is always at the finish line. It's Jumpin Offsides tonight. We have special guests, but as always, I have J.D. Lyles and Mike Pearson right here in house. My name's Chance Gant. We're going to bring you through tonight. But before we do, I want to introduce our guest for the night. This is her words now, not mine. This is her words. She is an employee to two bipolar dictators, and she is a sports nut. This is a former radio host, broadcaster. She is the host, the innovator, everything to a peek inside Florida Gators football. This lady has sports running through her blood, football all the way. Her granddad was a Florida Gator. Her dad was a Florida Gator. Her brother was a Florida Gator. And also her husband, Eric Wilbur, he was a Florida Gator, a champion Florida Gator at that. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want you to welcome my friend to the show, Allie Peak Wilbur. Thank you for being with us, Allie.
You are welcome. And apparently I need to update my Twitter bio because I actually now have 5 children, not 2. So apparently I have not.
We'll edit that out. We'll definitely edit that out for you. But
you don't need to edit.
I've had a chance.
That's a microcosm of my life there that I have not edited that.
I understand that. It's a whirlwind for all of us, and especially you, because I got to know you and watching you, and I've actually called into your show before. You were gracious enough to listen to me ramble about Florida Gator football, and getting to see you on Shane Matthews' podcast. I've also seen you do some of the best Q&As with former legends like Urban Meyer, as well as others. We're a big fan of your show and your program, and I couldn't tell you how much this means to us having you on.
Absolutely.
When I got the message from you and we talked.
Oh, well, man, I appreciate it. You got a girl blushing over here. I'm just excited to talk.
Absolutely. We'll dive right in. So we had a bye week last week. We're coming off a win, which was huge for us. To beat Kentucky, they were up on us. We couldn't make it 3 in a row. So we got the win there. What did you see watching that game? What impressed you the most about the way Florida played?
I think Florida's defense has been playing really well the last couple of weeks. Looks like we made a change during the bye week. My guess is that we have somebody different calling the plays, but Coach Napier won't confirm or deny anything, essentially. He says we have a whole team that calls plays. But I'm interested to see this week did we look improved because we were playing weaker competition, or are we really improved? And I do, at the very least, think the effort and the fire that they're playing with has improved. I sat right in front of the D-line warm-ups against Texas A&M and honestly was kind of appalled at the lack of effort that I was seeing, the lack of fire, both from players, but also from coaches running the drills that were going on.
Exactly.
You know, players saying, I need the coach to be kind of up your butt a little bit to get you fired up if you're not there. And I didn't see that. And I do feel like we're playing with so much more purpose now than we were the first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me because John David and I went to the Miami game. Mike was there as well. And there was no fire, there was no drive, and the thing that stuck out the most to us was the O and D lines. You're getting nothing up front. You're getting no push on the O-line. You're getting no push on the defensive line. And then in the A&M game was the same. We've seen some gradual improvement, and like you just said, is it because the teams they're playing aren't as stellar as they should be, and so that we're winning some matchups up front? Mike, what do you see when it comes to that?
Well, I think it's probably a combination of both, which fortunately for that team, losing is a habit, and I think so is winning. So for them, getting some like a residual effect of a combination of, hey, we did well, against UCF. Let's improve and do better against Kentucky, because we could definitely say that, Mississippi State, awful team. So gonna definitely win that one, or if we didn't, God help us. UCF, probably better than Mississippi State. Kentucky is better than UCF. But to Allie's point, how good are we really improving? We're gonna find out here in the next 4 weeks for sure. And she hit the nail on the head, like we talked about for many weeks. I'm okay, or I don't want to say I'm okay. I can understand if that team across the other field is better than us. If they got better players, they got better scheme, et cetera. But when there's just little to no effort and a who gives a damn type of mentality, which was very evident the first couple of weeks, that was disheartening. So I think now that we've seen an improvement, we've seen enthusiasm, we've seen some guys that are flying around. And Allie, like we talked about last week, I'm with you. I don't know if they, quote, dumbed it down to a sense of, hey, we're just going to keep it real simple and do the 4 schemes that we know really well and let our kids just fly around, because there's definite a sense of aggressiveness that has not been there. So that's where I'm going to hang the hat for the next couple of weeks and just make sure that win, lose, or draw, guys are flying around and they're giving it everything they have in order for us to be in the chance to win. And just like the Tennessee game, I think that was that was coaching. That was coaching, but that's a better team, and I think we played well on the road. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We were in that one, and if we'd had okay coaching, I think we win that one. Which
right.
Absolutely.
That's unfair to these kids, that stinks for them because they brought it. They played with intensity and with purpose. And, Mike, having played at such a high level, what you practice is how you play. And so for me, when I heard Coach Napier talk about in the bye week, how, they made it a competition in practice and how, it was good versus good. And, we really kind of ramped it up. That I know people got excited and were like, oh, that's amazing. I was like, why the hell have we not been doing that for 2.5 years? You were in a scenario where you don't know who your starters are at a lot of positions. I think maybe, let's say you're Georgia, you're returning all of these same starters. You know exactly who your guys are. Maybe you don't practice 1 versus 1 because you're not trying to injure them and you know who your guys are. We were rotating, felt like 87 guys on the offensive line because we didn't know who our good guys were. Same thing with defense. So why are you not going 1s versus 1s in practice and creating that competition before now?
Yeah, I think it's all those factors that, Coach Napier is working through. And again, we're not in the building, so we can't necessarily put a finger on one specific thing. But I will say from buddies that have lived in Gainesville and go to the practices, to my own eyes at practice, like I remember last year specifically when they brought the old guys up to watch practice and hang out. I looked to Cooper Carla and I said, there's eventually going to be a period where we hear some guys like talking smack and really blasting each other, and it never happened.
So I think we were at the same practice because we were up there when they brought the former guys back too, and Eric was sitting with Billy Latsko, and they were like, "They're so soft. What is going on? Like we're gonna get killed. They're so soft." It was at that point that they said we were gonna win 5 games, and I was like, "Oh no, I've heard we're so much better. Our D line are this," and then we won 5 games. So
yeah, so I think it's definitely a mindset and an edge, and even when we were with Coach Spurrier. Now I'm not going to sit here and lie and act like we were banging all the time and getting after it, but there was a definite day during the week and then during 2 days where we knew this was going to be we're 1s-on-1s. Guys are going to get after it. There's going to be some fights. There's going to be some people that are probably going to get a little heated and carried over into the locker room. Mm-hmm. And I just think Billy, for whatever reason, maybe he's coming around to it that we have to have that type of environment in the practice session, because what you practice is how you play. It's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate or what you just allow to happen. Yeah. And hopefully they've like Coach Spurrier said, try something different. Like eat breakfast for dinner one night and,
Right.
drink coffee instead of whatever. I think he was very keen on that. And maybe Billy listened, and they're doing something different. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, he said that too. I saw where Spurrier said last week, I think we're headed in the right direction. And so that was kind of surprising after a few weeks of watching, the podcast he's on, once a week, where he's basically been telling Billy, look, something's got to give. We got to change something. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I think we're headed in the right direction, which, like you said about going back to the Tennessee game. I mean, they dominated the game for, 3 quarters plus. But it's hard to win on the road. I mean, you can't blame 100% of that on coaching. I mean, just look at LSU this weekend. I mean, the first half, unbelievable. Second half looked like, where did this broke down car come from? It happens. And so you can't blame it all 100% on coaching.
Say it, Mike.
Well, JD, where I'll disagree is I think players win games and coaches lose games, in my opinion. And I think where you separate the cream of the crop, i.e., we joke around with you, JD, about Brian Kelly can't win the big one. It's like certain coaches and certain staffs, it's not a surprise why, God bless them, Saban won a lot of big games and
Yeah.
He's always got good players. And then, I think Kirby's starting to become of that kind of mold where he's winning the big ones. And I think where we have to accept the lack of the coaching inefficiency is because the same type of mistakes and things that pop up aren't the player's fault, in my opinion. Like you go back to the Arkansas game last year, the special team debacle on the field goal and extra point. Like, God bless kickers, and Allie's husband was a great one, but if he was on here with us, he would definitely agree. Hey, I shouldn't be the one to be in charge of running in and out.
We were on the sidelines for that game, and Eric was closer to the field goal unit than Couch was. So Eric is screaming at all of them from the sidelines. Like I'm kind of surprised we're allowed back in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, actually. But losing his mind trying to get them to do what they're supposed to do. But you're right, it's not on a player, it's on a coach. Like the assistant strength coach Frank, who was there when Eric was there, he is who was in charge of special teams when Eric was there, held a clipboard, counted, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, my long snapper and my kicker are over here working, so now I've got my 11. And it was his job to pay attention and make sure that the right guys went out there. That's not on a player. But to your point, I think execution mistakes year one, I can understand where you're blaming a player on that, or a random one-off. I understand that players are not going to be perfect, and sometimes they make execution mistakes even when something's perfectly. But we're making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And it no longer becomes on the player; it becomes on the coach. Either because they're calling something they can't run, they're not explaining it the right way. Like or you're not practicing perfection. And I think that's the difference too. Is that it's not that practice makes perfect; it's that you have to practice it perfectly, so that when you go out on the field, you can execute it 10 out of 10 times. And that's never been the case for these Napier coach teams. And it is frustrating because we are more talented than some of these teams that we have continually lost to. And the difference is the details. And we were sold on the details.
Right. That's a great point, because that's where he's supposed to shine and thrive. And I haven't seen that. So, I mean, again, ready to give somebody, another shot, but we've got to stop making the same things over and over, same mistakes.
So that takes me to this. So what happens? So before the season, all we heard was how difficult our schedule was, and man, we come out of this 6-6, 7-5. Billy gets year 4. We roll with that. But is it a deal of now where, because we may have one, we might sneak one that we're not supposed to win from another one to get to 6, right? So if we get to the 6 wins, do you think a culmination of the way we've lost this year that loses you in these next few games, or these next, 5 games left? So So is it the way we lose now that gives him a fourth year, or is it is it something else? Just knowing if we get to 6, we're going to have him back just because this was a difficult schedule. Basically, a blue ribbon award, or participation award, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think 6-6 is kind of the mark that they had said at the beginning of the season was what was being looked at. I don't know that I think that has changed. I do think it'll be difficult for us to reach that, and if we do, they did win one that they, in theory, were not supposed to. But I do think the eye test should matter some, right? Like if Georgia blows Florida out and Texas blows Florida out and LSU blows Florida out, but they sneak one out against Ole Miss and they beat a really, really bad Florida State team, that means that we weren't competitive in pretty much any ranked game that we played in outside of, let's say, the Tennessee game, because at least that one was close. But we will have lost to every ranked team we played. And, we will be sitting with the 51st ranked recruiting class. And that's if nobody else defects at this point, which I'm sure that is highly likely. And not only the 51st, but they're sitting at 15th in the SEC recruiting. And, we got rid of Dan Mullen, who was an elite game day coach, but a mediocre recruiter, and sold the line that we were getting a pretty darn good game day coach and an elite recruiter. And Dan Mullen never had a class that sniffed 51, and so I don't know. The positives is that DJ Lagway stays if Napier stays, and I think there's a way to keep him even if Napier goes. But you've got him. He's showing promise. I think he is an exceptional talent. I think there is a lot of young talent on this roster, to be honest. But top-ranked classes are what get you championships, right? They're what make you competitive for conference and national titles. And the 51st class is absolutely not giving you a step in the right direction. So at that point, are you prolonging the inevitable? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all got 2 home games, 2 away games, and a neutral site, correct? That's what's left. You got to go to Austin. I mean, it's going to be tough to play in Austin. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be hard this week's going to be hard. After watching Ole Miss and Oklahoma, I fully believe Florida can beat Ole Miss at home.
Oh, I know we will.
And
I called that a long time.
And also, I mean, Florida State, they're terrible.
Better win
if you don't lose that game, if you don't win that game, they'll be like they do in Baton Rouge. They'll have for sale signs in his yard before the game's over with. So
I'm of the opinion he's got to sneak one of the remaining SEC games out. He's got to win one, and if he loses to Florida State, he's out.
If he loses to Florida State, he's done. You can forget.
We're not paying another $8 million a year for 5 and 7, and that's where I get probably the most frustrated. Is I'm a big believer in midway in year 3, you should start seeing this upward progression of play calling, of guys buying into your system, and I get weary and tired of, Mullen didn't leave me with anything.
Same.
Okay, you knew what you signed up for. It wasn't like there was some sneak attack that all of a sudden you got handed to you 3 years later. So get the job done. And we joke around all the time, Allie, is that me, Shane Matthews, and Cooper Carlisle would do this job for a third of the money and probably get better or at least the same results.
That's what Eric says, pay me $1 million and then just incentivize wins.
Yeah.
I feel like I could win more than this, and the locker room would be more fired up. And that is, we feel bad when we talk about how a coach potentially isn't the right fit, right? I catch myself all the time. I don't ever want to be the negative person that's saying this person should be fired. But then the logical part of me is you are making $1 bajillion a year to do a job that you're not doing well. And that's
to be bad at your job when you get fired. $26 million. But you know what I see in year 3 with the progression? Hey, let's let the special teams mat travel with us too, where we don't have 12 guys on the field. By year 3, we should at least have that mat and somebody stick it to their ass or something, and it just travels goes and sits on the bench, where we get 11 lined up there. There's not one extra. There's not one short. Let's make sure we got 11 guys. They're going to run out there. We're going to kick this thing right through the uprights. That's where I have a problem.
Well, to my knowledge,
shoes on the field.
Yet
he's one of the coaches or one of the crews that fought to get rid of the limitations on staff.
Oh,
yeah,
So we've got a position for a position, but going back to the fundamentals, we don't have one of the key positions filled. Like, what are we doing, gang? Like,
hey, LSU doesn't have one either. You saw this week. You saw what happened.
Well, Auburn got to run out of 14 this weekend, and they didn't even get a flag. Did y'all see that? 14 guys on the field for Auburn on special teams.
I'll tell you a story about that 12 men on the field last week. Supposedly, I had this on pretty good accord. Supposedly, we had a player who was injured, who Houston communicated, okay, yep, come off, you're injured. Napier ran his ass back across the field, told him, no, get back on the field. And Houston is screaming at Napier because Houston has said, no, I have my 11, and Napier sent the 12th out. And not only did he send him out, but it took him 10 whole seconds to run all the way across the field. And that is why we ended up with 12 men on the field. But then he goes to a press conference and says, oh, we had an injured guy on the field that instead of saying, I made a mistake, that was on me. My bad, guys.
Mm-mm.
And Mike wants
and
to
see
talk
that again. Listen,
don't talk about my coach.
I just hate his fake accent. Is what I really can't stand. At least Napier's accent's legit.
There's a lot I don't like. Trust me.
And so is his haircut. But to Allie's point, it's like, I think this position and role, I've said it for a while now, it's too big to try to do umpteen things. So if you're going to be the, quote, kind of CEO that he presents as, then you've got to elevate yourself and delegate responsibilities to other people, i.e. why we don't have a special teams coordinator who does all the special teams.
You hired Joe Houston from the NFL and brought him in, then you're going to question his call on the sidelines. Like, special teams better this year. I would bet $1 million that has to do with Joe Houston. But then when it's on the field in the game moment, let the guy do the job you brought him here to do.
Correct. And it's like the micromanagement.
Well, I think at this point, though, you've got so many issues there that he's had in the last 2 or 3 years with this that he's probably a little bit panicked. And when he thinks that there's supposed to be a guy on the field, then, hey, you're supposed to be out there. Let's go. And so, that to that micromanagement point, I think that it's a cause and effect. I think that the last few years of having constant issues has created this more than it is him trying to micromanage. I think that's what I see anyway.
Well, and that's probably why he kept, play calling himself, is that, the concept that, like, shoot, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down at my own hand.
My own way.
I don't necessarily disagree with. I just think in general, the theory should be, if you want to be a head coach, do that. Most people can't be an offensive coordinator and a head coach. There are some, but it's far and few in between. And he's not one of them. So do you want to be an OC or do you want to be a head coach? Because you being the OC may cost you your shot at being a head coach.
I've thought about
100%.
that a million times. And I don't necessarily have a problem with his schemes and his play calling. I really don't have a major. I've kind of echoed Shane with that. Like, he's always been in his backfield as far as, like, I have no problem with putting up yards or putting up points. Last year it was the defense. This year it started out with the defense, but I think he has the right guy behind center now. And that's no knock on Graham. I just think that everybody meshes with Lackway. I think he's a team builder, and I think you see more explosives with him. And then there's the threat to run, which gives us much better. And so I think with that, you're going to see Billy pull some rabbits out of the hat in the next couple of weeks. And I think we'll be better off for it. But with that,
let's talk about last week.
I want to go to our instant replay. We're going to go under the hood with that. John David, tell them about Rubber Boot Crawfish Company. before we do.
So my buddy Barrett Olivier started a company here in Shreveport a few years ago, Rubber Boot Crawfish. He's on Uri Drive. He's starting a new location on Mansfield Road. We'll be starting up in January. Best crawfish in all of North Louisiana, shrimp, boudin. Anybody that's watching, go tell him you want the Jumpin Offsides 5-pound box special. When time comes, he's going to hook you up. So go see my buddy Barrett and old Clay. They'll get you hooked up. Rubber boot. So
let's go under the hood.
The first thing under the hood I want to talk about is Chance picking Mississippi State to win this week.
Yeah.
Well,
talk about that.
I saw a little promise with them.
Mississippi State's going to win, cover, and the under against Arkansas. Mike, I know you told him last week. You got on his ass about it. That was bad. What was the final score? 58-25. Pete Suey.
We put up 25 over there and started.
Boat race is what it was.
Yes.
What promise did you see or come to? Like where did you get this this premonition?
Honestly, I thought that Lebby would have them together for that one, and maybe that Arkansas would falter in that game, just because Arkansas does that at least once or twice a year. So that's kind of what I was banking. Hey, even Vegas Dave misses sometimes. So, and before we start that, as we talk about all this, hey, gamble responsibly. Call the number, call the hotline if you have a gambling problem. But Caesar Sportsbook here at Louisiana Downs, gamble responsibly. That's all I'm going to say.
So we're going to go to our game of the week. I've got to spend some time on this. So LSU and A&M, 38-23 A&M. LSU looked like they were in control of the game. They were, the first half, they were doing exactly what they wanted to do. Connor Wegman looked awful, and they shut A&M down. A&M's defense really didn't have a whole lot of answers except for LSU not having a run game. They go in at halftime. Granted, they should have been up 23-7 instead of 17-7. They had the 2 missed field goals, and they come out in the second half, get a stop, go down the field, and then they have another miscue, and that's when it started. And so back to your point earlier, Mike, about coaching, and I will 100% agree. I don't disagree that coaching has a lot of, to do with this for sure. That game the other night was a clinic in the second half on how to make adjustments at halftime and come out and dominate. Texas A&M came out in the second half, and when they realized LSU couldn't run the ball, which is their Achilles heel this year, they just sat back in coverage, rushed with 4, and played a lot of pass-off zone, if you will. The one interception that Nussmeier had on the sideline looked like man all the way, and at the last second he dropped off in zone through an interception. But it all turned when he was trying to make a play. And I saw Brian Kelly's press conference after the game, and he made this point. We can't continually put Nussmeier in a situation where he has to feel like he has to make a play. And I told a friend of mine this the other night. The bottom line is, if you can't run the ball in the second half, I don't care what level of football you're on, you're not going to win.
Yeah, and Nussmeier's got to be the top QB in the SEC this year. So where I would push back on Kelly is, if you can't run the ball, and it's just a matter of fact, I don't know if I'd want anybody else having to make the plays for me. So again, it's kind of like, where do you go from here, or where does Kelly, make his adjustments that he obviously didn't make or couldn't make that the A&M guys did?
Here's my question to you: is that being an offensive lineman, running a lot of zone scheme. LSU's run a zone read for the last few years with Jaden Daniels. However, Nussmeier doesn't give him. He can run the ball, but he doesn't. He would rather pass.
Yeah, he's not a threat.
And so he's no threat. So when you're no threat to run the ball at quarterback, and the defensive line knows that they have to key on the running back, and that's all they got to key on, how does that change in your zone blocking? In my opinion, if he's not going to run the ball in the zone read, they need to line up in the pistol and put a hat on a hat and not zone block. Now, I don't know how else to put it, but your zone read offense is not there. And I mean, comment on that,
Well,
everybody.
and maybe one of the best offensive lines in the SEC again, taking some ownership of, hey, they've got to be able to switch a gear or to make an adjustment, in the same manner. But I still think it goes back to what are they trying to do versus what they're capable of doing.
Exactly.
And if those guys can't get in the I formation or pistol and just blow you back off the ball, then yeah, you're going to have to throw it 50, 60 times a game to win a game. Is that a recipe for disaster?
Yeah.
I don't have the answer to it, but
you're going to make mistakes. You can't put it on your quarterback all the time.
Yeah. And then even going to the defensive side of the ball. I mean, A&M just figured out, we'll just put that rocket quarterback in the backfield and let him run around like he's on fast forward and everybody else in slow motion. I mean, kudos to them for making that switch.
Well, that's what I think, Elko is been masterful this entire season for the most part at making adjustments and not being afraid to make a change in different positions if he needs to, and we watched Marcel Reed in live and living color in the swamp.
Didn't we?
He's an incredible talent and he is the future of that program for sure, but he knew his team needed a spark and he knew it was a gamble, but he went with it and it paid off. Right. And, kudos. I don't know. I think Elko's got to be up for Coach of the Year at this point.
For sure.
I agree.
Vanderbilt as well, but what he has done there and, what happened to their team via the transfer portal when Jimbo left and whatever, that's honestly probably part of why Florida fans are so pissy at our situation, because we're like, wait, no fair. They've had him 1 year and this is what they're looking at. But I think Brian Kelly was out-coached.
100%, especially in the second half. He got out-coached, not just him, but the whole staff. The offense, the defense, you name it. The special teams, it was just the second half was diabolical. I don't even know.
I appreciate other teams, special teams blunders.
Me too. I appreciate Brian Kelly at halftime going out there to Kyle Field and saying, "Hey, look here. Here's a ticket to the shit show. Get ready because we're fixing to watch this thing unravel."
Well,
in the second half.
I'll say this: It was their first conference loss, and it was a big eye-opening experience, I think, for everybody on that staff. Now, if LSU wins out, they will go to Atlanta via tiebreaker. Because if they beat Alabama beat Georgia, Georgia's got the one loss. If LSU wins out, they still go to Atlanta. And if Texas and Texas A&M win out and they play each other the last game of the year, then it'll be whoever wins that game in Atlanta versus LSU. Now, they would yet to be seen. A lot of football left. But they control their own destiny.
So
and that's all you
Florida
can
has no chance. Florida has no chance to get to Atlanta.
Right,
I don't think Florida can get to Atlanta.
And I'm going to say what I always
They might
say.
go on a private plane and watch, but they're not playing in it this year.
Next 5, I think we get a participation trophy and go.
Yeah. And if Aunt Betty had a dinghy, she'd be Uncle Betty. So,
Allie, Chance says we're going 9-3. So
we are going 9-3, Allie.
You know what?
Yeah. And y'all will thank me later. Just thank me later. That's all I know.
Pumped if that happens.
If y'all go 9-3, I will eat a scoop of dog shit out of a red Solo cup.
Red Solo cups are coming out.
Book it.
Put it online. We'll find the Florida State fan, and me and him will eat it together.
That's right.
There you go. Well, we're beating Georgia this weekend. That puts us on the track to do it right there.
It's family friendly here, Allie. Family friendly.
Yeah.
So.
There's red Solo cups behind us.
So we're going to stay in the SEC, and we're going to go to Texas and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt almost came back and won that game. They were an onside kick away from getting it at the end. They had a chance to take the lead late, and they had to punt, I think, and then Texas went down and scored.
They have the worst passing schematics, the worst passing scheme of any team in the SEC. Though it's just total chaos, and everything they do is what's his name?
Diego Pavia.
Diego. He's poor man's Johnny Manziel, really, is what he is.
He's a Dollar General version of John Manziel. Yeah, that's correct.
You know what I hate?
Well-
I don't want to say I hate, but what I feel bad for the Vandy people is this coach is going to be gone in a year.
Oh,
He's going to be gone in a
Yeah.
year. That's what all. I mean, it happens to them all.
He might be coaching Florida next year.
No, he won't be.
No, we ain't doing that.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. He'll be in the Big
But
Ten.
you just kind of sometimes wish. Yeah, 100%. I am totally with you on that.
I am too. Yeah, embarrassment coming up.
But I just always feel bad for them because they get some good juice going, and then they fly the coop.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, the good thing about it now, I think, is they do have an opportunity with the portal and also with the way college football is set up. I mean, they've got, not necessarily a recruiting base, but they've got an ability now, being in the SEC and the revenue sharing and all the other things that go along with that. I think that Vanderbilt has an opportunity to be as good as Kentucky or Arkansas or any of these other schools. I mean, Vanderbilt has that opportunity. People like Nashville. I love going to Nashville. I mean,
Nashville's great.
It's a great city and it's a good football city. I mean, with the Titans and
Nissan Stadium.
yeah, I think that eventually Vanderbilt will get to that level. Maybe I'm not going to say they're going to be national championship level, but they'll be middle to the SEC some years, bottom some years. I mean, to me, I think that going to Vanderbilt would be a better opportunity than going to Mississippi State. I mean, have you ever been to Starkville?
Boy, have I.
I mean, Skip Bourbon said it's an old Indian word for trailer park, and he was not lying.
Yeah, I don't have good news from Starkville either, so I don't.
Yeah,
I don't care.
So,
But you just wonder why Vandy couldn't why they can't ever get over the hump and have like a Utah, University of Utah type of program
Agreed.
where.
And there's a lot of money there.
Well, a lot of it is too. They're a private university, and that's they're the only private university in the Southeastern Conference. And I think it went to baseball. I was noticing some things that like they have to have private scholarship money to go over and beyond just to have enough scholarship baseball players. And so that's just baseball. You're talking about football too. So do what now?
I mean, that's what we're all going to, right? Like, with the
pretty much.
That's going to be all of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
What's our next one, JD?
Oklahoma and Ole Miss. That was a pretty good game. Really good game. Oklahoma played better than expected. They still don't have a quarterback on campus. Mike, can you play quarterback? Do you still have any eligibility? I know Chancellor's got eligibility.
I've got 1 year.
I want to send him to
1
Norman.
year left, but I don't have much of a run. I'm not much of a runner. I'd be sitting duck back there. So I don't know if I'd be your. I wouldn't be your answer.
It looks like Jackson Dart has gotten worse, and I don't know if it's the team nucleus, I guess, changed from last year. They lost a lot of guys. They got a lot of guys out of the portal, and it just doesn't seem like they're meshing. And I said this too. Losing Quinshon Judkins was huge because that guy right there was a lot of their offense, and they don't have that dynamic running ability that they had last year to change the game. And I think that, given that with all the new faces, Lane is kind of struggling to get that going.
Defensively, you scheme up against them and you have them stop because you know what's coming. Mm-hmm. He'll surprise you with a wheel route or something to get by you. Quarters coverage, a seam, something like that. He's good with that. But all in all, they scheme him up on defense, and then it's a stalemate. And then you see, like, you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, we're hitting the over this week because they're playing XYZ." So that's as a gambler, like you see, man, that's over coming up, and then they come and they score 17 points. And it's like, man, you killed me. And the team you're playing. They put some on the board, but we didn't get anywhere near the OU.
Yeah.
I think Ole Miss is somewhat similar to Florida State, not in what we're seeing on the field, but in terms of recruiting in high school is still king, right? So last year we saw Ole Miss hit a lot in the portal. and they were really, really good. But the portal's a gamble. And this year we're seeing they didn't have as many transfer portal hits, but they're averaging, 20s, right, for their recruiting class. So if you don't have a solid, probably at least top 10 base, if not higher, high school recruiting wise, you aren't going to consistently be at the top. And that's exactly what we saw with Florida State. They hit a year ago in the transfer portal. They didn't hit on anything this year in the transfer portal, but they're mediocre at best recruiting out of high school. And that's like, if you aren't elite at recruiting high school, you're still not going to win consistently.
Well,
I think we've talked about it.
Oh yeah.
Cristobal, what do you say?
About recruiting.
Yeah, if you're in the state of Florida, look around and what the other programs are doing, and look at us.
I still have to.
He's not lying, but
making it to the stadium because you're 45 minutes from campus.
Anywhere.
Let's build one in Coral Gables and go. QB2, Brock Berlin could attest to all this. They need to build a stadium over there in Coral Gables and go with it. They should have never torn the OB down. They did. Now they're having to waste all their gas money getting to Hard Rock Stadium. So there you go.
Yeah, like you said, that thing's like 45 minutes away.
Yeah, they're done.
But to Allie's point, I think
year.
that's where Lane has said, I think, kind of pretty openly and behind closed doors, I guess, if that's an oxymoron. But he's frustrated because he knows he can't consistently compete with Alabama, even throw Auburn, on a year in, year out basis for top high school talent. So where he's got to dip into the portal, and I think even from the perspective of what they're doing, it seems like Lane is just falling in love with Jackson and trying to make these big splash plays versus just working the ball around like we were texting during the Texas and Vandy game. I'm like, man, if I have to see Quinn Ewers throw one more flip out to the left and watch the guys scat around, but hey, it's what's getting the job done. It's winning, and I think Lane is just he wants to rip it and throw it deep, and so does his QB. So those are probably two bad combinations.
His identity is too,
right?
That he's this high flying,
correct,
exciting play kind of coordinator, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is when in reality, just win and particularly win the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah,
that's right.
No,
and hang 70 when you're supposed to hang 70, and he does that. It's just like, and my gosh, Mike can speak to this better than anybody. But I always go back to Spurrier. They all think, wow, man, he was throwing it all around, but he ran the ball just about as much. It was so balanced, but it was the big plays because he lulled you to sleep with draws, with the running game, and then bam, he was going to hit you with a post over the middle to Gaffney or Caldwell and take it to the house. But same way with Lane, and then to Sark's point, he's sitting there throwing little quick outs and little basically dump offs, and he's getting 2 to 3 yards, and then bam, here we go, right over the top.
Yeah.
Or we run a draw because we've spread you out, and then it's a big play ability. And so kudos to coaching with all that, and that's where we are.
Well, let's go. One of the games that we watched, we were texting back and forth about Nebraska and Ohio State. I was actually surprised that Nebraska stayed in the game and actually had a chance to win the game. Kind of screwed up there in the fourth quarter, but Ohio State, what are they ranked this week? 3, 4?
3.
No, Penn State's 3. They're 4. They didn't move. Yeah, Penn State's 3. They're 4. That we'll talk about that in a little bit, but. One of the other games, Navy got absolutely annihilated by Notre Dame. I think we all had that wrong. Well, I picked Notre Dame to win, but I figured Navy would cover and we'd hit the under, but that was way off. Navy had 6 turnovers. You can't win doing that.
No.
I mean, that's just bottom line. Illinois got killed by Oregon. Go ahead, Mike.
I said Navy just looked like they were just almost in awe. I'm not scared, but kind of
yeah, that's right.
Holy cow, we're on the national stage and we're undefeated and all this stuff. And man, they just looked like a total different unit than they had the weeks prior. So
And then when it
lost their
starts going
slippers.
downhill so early, then it just goes and it's over.
Yeah.
And then we got the Fighting Indiana Hoosiers 8-0. What about that? I mean, hey, Google me. I'm a winner. I mean,
so Allie,
let's
I posed
go.
this question to Shane when he was on with us, and I'm not saying we need to go ahead and fire Napier. It's not, but we all sit around. We talked about what if, and this and that. Okay, let's just say we all agree, or maybe we don't. But Lane is our number one recruit for Billy's replacement. I'm of the opinion the last 2 hires that we've had, maybe 3, is we get locked in on one person. We don't interview anyone else. And here we go. So I pose the question. I would love to at least kick the tires and interview Signetti.
Yeah.
Should this head coaching job come up? What is your opinion on Lane, other people, multiple interviews, kind of et cetera, but Signetti being, a former SEC guy under Saban?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would definitely think we kick the tires, right? And I hate the concept that we got locked in on stuff. I think back to, there was which JD, you'll probably remember this. There was a quote that came out of a Louisiana paper that said something to the effect of, one program was locked in on Napier. One program didn't even want to interview him. In 3 years, one's going to look really smart and one's going to look really dumb. And I think about that quote a lot because that's, I think I know which one we are at this point, but we did get nailed in so easily, so early. And sometimes I don't think it's a bad thing. Like with Mullen, I agree that we targeted him. He was our guy, but I feel like it made sense, right? He was winning at a program that is 10 times harder to win at than Florida. He had ties to Florida. He had ties to Strickland. His name was being mentioned for lots of top jobs. So even though, yes, I feel like we dialed in on him, I think it's almost revisionist history to say we probably shouldn't have at that moment, because I think he was probably the right hire for the moment. I totally agree with the Napier situation. If McElwain wasn't our 14th name on the list, then I don't know what the hell we were doing when that coaching search was going on. But I agree. We shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket. And I do think we have to be careful with Lane, because I think there's just a good a chance that he's messing with us just to get a larger contract and stay, at Ole Miss forever, than it is that he actually wants to come. I feel like sources from within his camp have said both things, right? Like people that I trust that are close to him have said conflicting messages, which makes me think he's maybe not even really sure. And he's still going to have to really step up that high school recruiting if he comes to Florida. And is it simply a resource issue, or is it a Lane high school recruiting issue? We don't know, but we're going to have to find out if we hire him, obviously. My issue with Signetti would be probably age. And,
that's what Shane said.
I think it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. I think that in this NIL era, we're watching the older generation of coaches burn out. They don't like it. They find it gross. I think they don't want to waste their time on it. I think it's now really a 24/7 job. So that would be my hesitation. I think he has the right temperament, though. Like, we've got to stop going after a nice guy. We're not a nice guy program. We need an arrogant guy who's going to come in, score a lot of points, and talk a lot of shit. And that
I love it.
And the nice guy stuff doesn't sell well with our own fans, and it's certainly not, winning us.
We're a laughing stock.
Yeah.
Somebody told me once that the very first question that should be asked of anybody we interview would be, if Kirby Smart is on fire, would you pee on him? And if you say yes, it is immediately disqualifying.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like Napier would probably run around to try and put the fire out. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
But I think Lane would probably laugh, right? So that's a positive in my book.
Lane would probably say, hey, just make sure you get his recruiting sheet out of his back pocket for that scorcher on fire.
Don't let it burn up. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy that you had this exact same sentiment that Shane had is, look, we know the guy is a winner. He's got some arrogance, which we all would appreciate and like. But with the age thing, would it be a short shelf life? Would it be, how is he going to handle the NIL? Only time can, really tell. And how will he do it in Indiana? And so far, so good. I'm just a big believer in it's always like winners win. And, he said that, Google me, I'm a winner. But, I mean, the guy took over a pretty depleted roster.
Yeah.
And
twice, 2 years in a row.
Traditional doormat of a Big Ten program. And I mean, overnight. I mean, and they're not a joke. And their defense is doesn't get the pub the offense does, but their defense is like off the charts. So
I just want to know: is it can it be maintained?
Yeah, sure. I'm with you though. I don't want to get like so laser focused on Lane. Yeah. And just miss out on, another really good candidate.
Somebody good.
Training facility anymore.
No.
I don't, it should have been in hindsight a red flag to us when you bring 100 staffers from Louisiana Lafayette, right? Maybe that should have been a flag to us. Are you telling me that every person you had employed at Louisiana is better than who you could have picked out from other SEC programs? You had all of these diamonds in a rough that no other SEC program had discovered at this point. Probably not, right?
Yeah. And
your strength conditioning coach shouldn't have come from there.
Yeah. And my biggest fear is that if we're not careful, whether we keep him or we don't, I'm in a camp where if he wins 2 more and gets to the bowl, then we keep him. Yeah. But if we're not careful, we end up being Arkansas pretty quickly. Where we're going to be like this 6-6, 7-5 group that's just going to be like, hey, we went to the Weed Whacker Bowl in Shreveport and hosted, by JD and Chance Bowl, which I love those guys.
The Poulon Weed Eater Bowl.
My team in that bowl.
Right, and it's just we I think we're still a top 5, organization and school that people want to be at. But we're getting real close to kind of sliding off of that mountaintop, if you will, and losing our luster.
Some of that I do think is out of Napier's control. I do think some of that is UAA related. And I think even in terms of where we steer our large donors, are we telling every person that calls up and says, hey, I have $1 million, are we saying, hang up with me and call Florida Victorious? Or are we saying sure, donate to the stadium project that's going to happen at, some point? Some of those tough conversations, if they aren't had, I don't know that it matters who the next guy is, right? We are in a completely different era of college football. We're about to be at a point where we need 15 to 18 million for rosters, probably starting in 2025, So there's a lot of wholesale changes that the university has to be willing to make to be competitive in the long term. And it doesn't even have anything to do with who the head coach is. Right.
Yeah. And I think we're always for some reason behind those curves. I don't know why. And I can't put my finger on it.
We're Florida. They'll come to us.
Right, that's what I mean.
Gadgets. Yeah. We don't need, but that's just not what it is anymore. The last time we won a national championship, none of these kids that are playing in high school were born.
No. Yeah, and these teams that already have their GMs in place, and these teams that are already embracing, the NFL mindset of a salary cap, of crunching, slotting players of what their value is, and et cetera. That's where we, as an organization, just always seem like, to your exact point of, well, we're University of Florida, we don't have to do that here. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Eric's had some of those same conversations where it's almost like, hey guys, I'll talk to you about whatever, but at the end of the day, y'all are going to do what you want to do. So I don't even know why we're going this route in the conversation. Yeah. But hopefully, we'll get on board and make sure we have our ducks in a row. Because if not, like I said, we're going to be in Arkansas quicker than we know it.
I agree. And it's sad. We are in the best state in the country in terms of recruits. We do have so much to offer from a university perspective. Now we're to the point where we have really competitive facilities, which held us back for a really long time, but we have to make that financial commitment to NIL. And, we can hold our nose while we do it, right? Like, I don't love the concept that there are kids making $30,000 a year riding the pine for us, but that's kind of the nature of the beast right now. And I guess I'll plug my nose if we can win.
Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna lead us to our parlay for perfection, where we pick all the games for the next week. Week 10 coming at you right now. We'll have the winner, the losers. We'll have the over/under and the cover spread there. And hey, it's brought to you by the Baldwin Group. As a quarterback, you want Mike Pearson blocking your blind side. So as an insurance agent, I want Mike Pearson with the Baldwin Group blocking for me. That's for sure. My insurance is through the Baldwin Group, and Mike Pearson, yours should be too. Parlay for perfection coming at you right now, JD. Start us off with our games that we have.
Let's talk about some records so far. And Allie, we'll go ahead and share this with you. So last week our guest was 14-4 on wins and losses. So you're gonna have to top that. Mike went 15-3. Yours truly went 16-2 last week. We won't mention what Chance did.
No need.
No need to mention that. Let's not do that. So we're going to start off. We're probably not going to. We'll send all these in, but the first game we want to talk about is really at the top of the list. It's going to be a good game. It's over in Dallas. Number 18 Pitt, 7-0, traveling to Dallas to face number 20 SMU. SMU is 7-1. SMU is favored by 7.5. And the over and under is 59.5.
Yeah, so the Pitt quarterback Eli Holstein, Zachary High School native.
Louisiana. Transferred from Alabama. He was a Nick Saban recruit.
Saban was down here recruiting. I talked to Saban at the Ruston state semifinal game for that, and he was there to see Holstein and the kids, the real deal. So to win, I took SMU, Southern Methodist, to win. I took Pitt to cover and the over in that game. Mikey, who did you like in that one?
For some reason, mine didn't say, but I'm gonna stop going against Pitt, so I'm taking Pitt to win. Obviously, Pitt will cover, and then I'm gonna actually take the under.
Well, Allie took SMU to win that game.
She's smart.
Do you pick them to cover, Allie, or do you take Pitt?
No, I actually pick Pitt to cover, and I think that the under is what hits.
At 59.5, okay. She's under all the way,
She's
JD.
under.
You're going to need to write that.
I will. I know SMU can score. That's all I know.
Go to the next game.
So, hey, JD,
gonna
are you
go-
writing mine down, or do I need to resend you the sheet?
You're going to have to resend it to
you know
me.
what the beautiful thing is this is taped, so we can
go back and watch because sometimes your picks that you write are different than the picks that you call out. So whenever
First
I
of
write
all,
something down,
I don't write none of them.
well,
That's
Google, what is it?
Google.
numbers.
Okay.
Apple numbers. It's Apple numbers.
Look at Apple numbers. Okay, so
I bet
when
you
he
Allie
sends
can
me a
get some
message,
numbers,
Allie,
and
so
she
listen,
can
he'll
do
send me a
just
message
fine.
and say, "You got it wrong. I was 15-3. I wasn't 13-5." Well, then you got to go back and watch because he sends you something different than what he says on the broadcast.
That is a bald-faced lie, and you
And
know
the
it.
favorite will get beat, but the favorite will still cover somehow. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
All right, so we're going to go number 13, Indiana, 8-0, 7-point favorite at Michigan State. Michigan State's 4-4. 50.5 is the over and under.
Let me say this before we get started. Hit the button, ring the bell. This is my Rotag Portable Toilet Services no shit pick of the week right here. I am taking Indiana to win, Michigan State to cover, and the under. This is my no shit pick of the week. Rotag Portable Toilet.
Let's go. What are you in your no shit pick of the week? 'Cause I need to go back
We'll
and
go
add that
back
up.
and look.
0-4?
All I know is Allie likes
Yeah, it
Indy
ain't
also
very
to
good.
win the game.
It ain't very good.
Allie, if you want to win, you'll just follow my lead all the way. You like Indiana to win. I know that. Who do you like to cover and the over-under?
I like Indiana to cover, and I actually think the under.
That's almost good. But
She
you're
picked
getting there.
exactly what I picked. Indiana, and under. Smart people think alike.
There you go. Mikey, what did you pick?
I went Indy, and over.
Okay.
I'm a Signetti fan.
It's my fault putting you in the game.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to go down a little ways. We're going to pick number 1 Oregon 8-0. They're a 14.5-point favorite in Ann Arbor. Michigan is 5-3, over and under 44.5. Who do you got in this one?
Everybody knows how I feel about this. Ann Arbor's a whore, so I'm still going to take. I'm still taking Oregon, and the over. Oregon, and the over. We are not playing around with Michigan.
It's in Ann Arbor. I'm picking Michigan to cover.
Oh my God!
I mean,
Oregon
Michigan's
to
going
win,
to cover.
cover, and the over.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I had. Oregon, Michigan. Over.
That's
I'm
what I had,
laughing
yeah.
all the way to the bank because I'm taking y'all's money on this one.
We'll see.
I
All right.
I can't wait till Ann Arbor slaps you with her left farmhand. Chance.
Yes, it's going to happen. We'll stay in the Big Ten. We got one here that I wanted to talk about a little bit. Minnesota 5-3. They're a 2-point favorite at number 24 Illinois. Illinois 6-2 now. I don't understand how
They're feeling like
Why?
Bielema's bunch is banged up.
I don't know.
why, but
They played terrible last week at Oregon, but I just hadn't seen anything out of Minnesota that says that they can go to what's the name of the town in Illinois? Champaign and win that, or at least be a favorite.
Allie likes
Champaign,
Illinois
Urbana.
as well. What do you like on the cover and the over/under?
Illinois to cover, and I'm taking the over.
Oh, you went over.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so you want to be wrong on that one? That's okay.
You
Allie.
picked like me, Illinois over.
Here we go.
Can't argue with 16 and 2.
Oh,
Don't need it. Where's the ball? Do I need to
That's
spike
where
it?
two fools met right there.
I'm gonna spike the ball.
Yeah.
Can I spike the Florida
Mike,
ball?
who'd you like?
I went Illy, and over.
That's because
I picked.
there you go.
I'm still trying to figure out why Minnesota's the favorite. Though. I mean, they're gonna row their
It's
boat.
liable to
Whatever
change.
the
That
saying
was
is.
Well, it was an early line, so it came out today. So it's liable to change before Saturday.
So I did have a question on that, JV.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What happens when these lines change throughout the week?
It's like it does when you bet it. It's where you bet it.
Well, I know that, but is JV capable of reverting back to what the original line is to do our pick'ems?
Yeah,
Well, I'm doing it
right
off of here.
Yeah, we got
So
our
whatever the
Okay.
score is, it goes down here. So,
Jimmy Dale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you remember Chance's penmanship ain't the best. So
Well, I typed it up this week just for JV.
Oh yeah.
all right,
Trust me.
there we go.
All right, so we're going to go. Louisville's going to Clemson. Louisville's 5-3. They've had a couple of games here where they've lost a couple close games. Number 11, Clemson 6-1. Clemson's 11.5-point favorite. 61.5 is the over and under. I took Clemson in the under. I mean, I'm petting the rock. We're going to win Howard's Rock. We're going petting the rock. Let's go.
Clemson, Louisville over for me. Allie likes Clemson. I don't know what she likes on the OU and the cover, though.
I like Clemson. I like Louisville to cover, and then I like the
Boom.
over.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
71.
I'm gonna-
Who do you like?
gonna say I'm with Allie on this one because I don't ever want to say I'm with Chance, but I'm Clemson, Louisville, and the over. So
Yeah.
we are all of like-mindedness, which is kind of scary.
That's what
because
that's what I
we're
said. That's how
following
we know
Chance.
That's how we all know we drive Hondas because we're all in one accord.
All right, we're going to go to your Coral Gables, Florida game.
Mm-hmm.
Duke 6-2, traveling to number 5 Miami 8-0, and Miami is a 20-point favorite, over and under 54.5. Who you got, Mike?
I went Miami to win, Dukies to cover, and I'm going to take the over.
I like how you think. Allie, who
That's
do you
exactly
like?
what I have.
Huh?
That's what
I mean,
have.
here we go.
20.
Are y'all loaded up?
Two Hillsborough County grads just putting their education, prowess
So
together.
y'all buckle up. We're in the Accord again. We're headed down to the supermarket. We're headed to watch Dollar General pop.
We might should change something. Maybe Miami will cover. I don't know.
Now, I'm better than Vegas Stage, guys.
I've got Miami in the under, so I'm not in the Accord.
Man, you're all the way here.
I'm not in the Accord there.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on down. Let's go TCU 5-3 at Baylor 4-4. Baylor's a 3-point favorite against Sonny the Bull Dykes.
Yes, love Sonny. Sonny's going to be on the show right after the season. He's committed to be on the show. A dear friend of mine. I like TCU on the gas and the under. TCU, and the under in that game.
I picked Baylor to win at home. Baylor to cover the 3 points and the under.
Okay. Who do we like over there in our Tampa area?
You going or am I going?
You go.
TCU, and the under.
It
ain't even fair.
I followed old JV. I went Baylor, and the under.
That's right. Hey, you 15-3, 16-2. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Me and Allie or something in O. That's all I know.
0
37-13 overall. Don't forget that, JV. Let's throw that one in there.
Yes, sir. We're going to go and pick some SEC games. I'm not going to do all of these, but let's go to number 10, Texas A&M. At South Carolina. South Carolina's 4-3, over and under 46.5.
Allie, start us off.
I'm going Texas A&M, and the over.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. I took A&M and
quarterback, but
I took A&M. They got to SC to cover.
They got to start the young kid.
They got to start Reed, right? You would think.
Come on.
They haven't committed.
I don't know.
They're gonna. Yeah.
But I'll say this: South Carolina can get after the quarterback. So
that's why I think
their defense. Well, even if they do, that's fine. But I think the defense is going to keep them in the game. That's why I think they cover. Well, I mean, I know I'm not saying he can't throw the ball, but I think if they keep. I thought it still is an SEC road game. Here we go, back to the same old deal.
I'm taking USC East, and the under.
I bet you won't ride it on a rock and throw it through the pay window.
All right, ride it on a rock and throw it through the pay window. USC East ×2 and the under right there. I'm throwing it right through Armwood High School to the 71 jersey. I'm breaking the glass right there.
No, I'm with Allie. I'm going A&M. Did you say over?
I did.
Yeah, I'm doing over.
It's all right to be wrong every now and then.
All right, Vanderbilt 5-3 going to Auburn. Auburn's 3-5, and Auburn is a 6.5 point favorite in Jordan-Hare. 48.5 is the over and under. I'm picking Vandy to win. I'm picking Vandy to cover, and I'm picking the over.
And I know Mike's serious because the hat's on backwards. Is this an over-the-top moment here?
And I've been picking Auburn all year. In the last 2 weeks, I didn't last week. Mike, you were right. I was like, man, I'm getting off the Auburn train. They go to Kentucky and win. I'm like, shit.
I'm a Hugh Freeze guy. That's who I wanted before we got any of those suckers. So I'm staying Auburn for the win. I think Vandy covers, and I'm going to take the under.
Ditto.
We're going to have to go back and watch this because he's going to say something different.
Vandy. I think Auburn covers, and I think it's the under.
That's right.
Not bad
Hey,
at all.
JV, I'm typing it in now. I'm going to save it. I'm going to actually take a picture. I'm gonna have like multiple authenticators so we can
Google Sheets, Apple numbers,
everything,
Excel, send it off.
Do it.
All right, so we got to. So we're going to go 3 more games. Let's go ahead and do all 3 of these. We're going to go number 19, Ole Miss 6-2, 6.5 point favorite at Arkansas. Arkansas is 5-3, coming off a huge win against Mississippi State. 55.5 is the over and under. Who you got, Miss Allie?
Ole Miss, and the over.
Ooh.
Hammered.
Yes, sir. In Fayetteville. What do you got, Pearson?
Exact same. You just
Oh,
listen to people who are smarter than you, and you do what they do.
JD?
I got Ole Miss to win. I got Arkansas to cover, and I took the over.
I took the unders. The only
I think Arkansas will be able to score. I think it's going to be lots of points scored in this one.
Ole Miss, Arky, and the
All right, so I'm going to wait till the last one to do this one. Let's go to number 4, Ohio State. 6-1. They're a 4-point favorite in Happy Valley. Number 3, Penn State, 7-0, over and under 47.5. Who you got with this one, Chance?
Don't let the PSU. I'm taking PSU, and the over in that ball game. I like Penn State. For some reason, I just feel like Ohio State's just kind of just withering.
Fool's gold? Yeah.
Dying on the vine, so to speak.
Is it a night game is my first question. I just wanted to confirm.
Oh,
No, it's a big noon kickoff.
Is it noon?
That's what
okay.
JC and Shane were talking about that this morning, about how these networks they're making the big noon kickoff the biggest games. And like, there's no prime time.
No. Well,
and
that's why
ESPN's making
ABC.
the big ones to 2:30.
I watched the deal today. They were talking about how much money that CBS has just pissed away by not signing on the contract with the SEC. And it started because whenever the SEC started, whenever they added A&M and Missouri, all they wanted was the equal amount of money from CBS that the other schools would get to add to the contract. They wouldn't do it. And look at where they're at now. The viewership is like terrible on CBS games right now.
Anyway.
Well, then that changes my winner then.
Yeah, I knew it would.
Who are you going with?
I'm going to go. If it was a night game, I was sticking with the Nittany Lions. But now that it's a noon, I'm going to go OSU to win. I'll take Penn State to cover, and I'm going to take the under.
That's exactly what I'm taking. I wrote these down beforehand, too.
See?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that.
So once again, that was a very less than dramatic pick by her. She rolled her eyes and goes,
well, because because we're the same again. But Ohio State's quarterback grew up a Penn State fan. They didn't recruit him. He feels he's talked all weekend about he feels personally like he's pissed that they didn't recruit him. He wanted to play for his childhood team, didn't get the opportunity, and he's literally said, "I want to show him that I was good enough."
And you know what that's going to mean? Absolutely nothing when Penn State rolls them up. In Happy Valley, Nappy Valley.
I bet you won't throw another rock and write it down.
I bet I will. You don't get the AP watches. You don't get the You don't get all that. Ric Flair had it wrong. No, this ain't Rolex. This is AP. Woo! You don't get there by making the wrong picks week in and week out. I make the right ones. Follow me if you want to go to the top.
Oh my God! All right. Let's go to the cocktail party. I don't know what they call it now because it's got to be politically correct. It was the largest outdoor cocktail party for years and years. We're going to go to Jacksonville, Florida.
Florida, the bridge.
Unranked Florida 4-3 at number 2. Georgia 6-1. The Hairy Dogs are a 16.5-point favorite over and under 52.5. Before y'all say anything, let me just say this: I picked Florida to win. I picked Florida, which obviously will cover, and I picked the under. I've been on the Florida train for a while now, even though y'all didn't believe me. I told you they were going to go to Tennessee and take care of business, and they almost did.
Is that participation trophy in the mail?
That's correct. Will you bring the special teams, Matt, to Jacksonville? Because
I might bring the special ed with me.
Michael, take us over the Jacksonville Bridge, would you?
Buddy, I'm ride or die.
Don't
so
do
I
it.
know that. I'm
ride or die.
I did the same thing, JD. I picked UF to win. UF will cover, and I'm taking the under.
Miss Allie, it's all.
All right, I think Georgia wins. I think Florida covers, and I'm taking the over.
You are the smartest woman in the room right now. That's exactly what Dr. Red Dirt picked right there. It is Georgia, Florida over. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for the night. Thank you for joining in to the Parlay for Perfection Jumpin' Offsides podcast. presented by Rubber Boot Crawfish Company. Thank you for all you do. Glad to have Allie with us tonight, Mike and JD. As we say goodbye to you, I want to close on this note. Strive for perfection and what, Mike?
Catch.
Settle for excellence. Allie, you just remember that. Strive for perfection and settle for excellence right here on the Jumpin Offsides Network. Thanks, guys.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champions of the
Gonna take me out. Somebody just turned the go switch on these suckers and people are moving a lot faster. Something's going on, and I ain't ready.